What's up guys, thanks for joining me on the channel again. Today we're going to do another part of modding my Tacoma, and this time it is adding fender liners to a Tacoma once the fenders have been cut. So let's flip the camera around and get a better look at what they're all about. So basically any Tacoma running 35s on a 3-inch lift needs cut fenders in order to clear everything without rubbing. The only problem is once you cut your fenders, fender flare and fender itself, you lose the liner. So what that does is it slings up mud and dirt all up under. It can cause a big mess. I've seen it happen when I go off-roading in mud and also in snow. When you're driving up to the mountains to go snowboarding, all the water gets flung up and then it starts freezing. So it's more of a problem in the front than it is the rear, at least in my personal experience. But C4 has come up with a fender liner, and that's basically going to fill in the gap between the body and the fender itself. It gives you a nice little seal, and I thought it looked pretty sweet. The only thing is I'm going to make a few minor adjustments just to fit my build a little bit better visually. But other than that, let's get the box open and show you what comes in it. So if you follow me on Instagram at all, you've seen that I've kind of teased this already about a week ago. If not, give me a follow. I'll put the tag on the top right corner. Anyways, pop the box open and you get 2 of the larger inner liners. And I'll show you where those go in just a second. Then you'll have 2 of the smaller front halves. You've got the seal that's going to be between the liner and the fender. The stencil cutout if you haven't cut your fenders already, which I have, so I don't need this. And then your bag of hardware and small miscellaneous bracketry. Alright, so here's the driver's side liner. And there's one bracket that goes right there. You just unthread the fender bolt, put the bracket on. There's a driver and passenger. It's on the bracket itself. And you may have to loosen it up and go up or down depending on where the hole lines up on this inner liner. And then if you see this right here, this tab, that black clip right there is actually going to sit right in the center of this guy. So we'll see if I can do it one-handed. Okay, so that proved to be a little bit harder than expected, but we've got the tab up on top holding that in, and I just roughly threaded this in here. You can see the fitment is actually really good, and the rubber gasket is going to make up that gap. The only thing is you have to be careful because I went a little too spicy on my fender cut and went too far according to their flare. So I will have to be doing some adjustments just to tighten it up a little bit. But right now it's just setting in so you can see how they want it mounted up. Now, this is where I'm going to change a few things. Okay, so you see that little dimple right here? Their 3rd gen version has a tab that is kind of like that one up here that's bent up. And you put a nut and bolt and washer through there. And then they also have this 90-degree bracket that goes right here. Now, to me, visually, that just does not look good. So what I'm going to do is, I already planned this out. I'm going to put this bracket right there, so that way I could put a bolt nut and washer. And then I'm going to, you can see that line up right there. I'm going to put that there. And this is their bracket right here that holds the 2 halves together. And I'm gonna set that bracket on top of the L and tighten it down so that now this is fully supported with that L bracket with the screw. And we won't be using that 90-degree bracket right here, just so that visually you don't see it. To me, it's gonna be a cleaner look. And what I do end up planning on doing is, if and when I ever take the fender off completely, I'll just drill a hole up on top and use the bracket correctly on this side. But either way, it's gonna be supported right here, and then the last piece will be supported right here. And I'll show you that right now. Okay, so this is the last piece, very loosely mocked up, so just take that for what it is. But this is basically going to be bolted in on all four corners. And then you've got a bolt, nut, and washer that holds that all together. So with that bolted in, the center bolted in, and the rearward part bolted in, we should be very solidly mounted and good to go. Moving on to the last piece that's included in the kit is this C4 logo. It goes right here with two of the supplied bolts. It looks good, but, and this is no diss to C4, I think it looks too busy and I don't want the logo there. So I'll be filling in these holes and we're going to be painting this all black. We're gonna do black Steelit, and that's actually what I painted this with. So it's gonna blend right in. I wanted everything to look really sleek, streamlined, kind of unnoticeable, and almost stock looking, if you will, but modified, very OEM plus like, just like the whole truck. If you've watched my walk around video, you'll see a lot of small things that I've done. If not, I'll add it to the end cards at the end of this video and you can check it out for yourself. With that being said, again, if you've watched my build, you know that I have ARP bolts from front to back on this build, and these fender liners will be no exception. So I've got some hardware that's going to be 12-point stainless steel versus the standard 6-point hex, and we've got a bunch of beauty washers for all of it. This, in my opinion, is just a nice touch to a nice mod on the truck, which is going to kind of complete the whole deal. But if you look, we've got ARP bolts on the beadlock wheels. We've got ARP bolts on the coilovers. I put them on the Kibtech upper control arms, holding up the reservoir, and that's just on the front of the truck. I mean, we've got some right here. I put it on the winch fair lead. There's some ARP bolts holding the winch, so it goes on and on. I wasn't going to do this big of a mod and kind of skimp out, so we're gonna have some nice ARP bolts right there on all four. We'll have one in the front, one right there, and one right there. And if you're wondering how I figure out which bolt thread pitch and length I need, it is with this thread checker right here. I'll put the link in the description below. Basically, it's going to have a bunch of threaded bodies, I guess you can say, that's got the thread pitch that'll tell you exactly what it is. And you've also got the other male part where you can get a nut and put that on and see which one you need. So you can figure out which bolt and which nut you need. All right, now that the mods that I want to do have been said, let's get on to actually doing it. So obviously I can get these aluminum welded. I don't have time to take it to my friend. I'm just gonna do some JB weld for now and grind it smooth. Worst case, if it does require an actual weld later on down the line, I'll just drill it out and have him plug weld it and we'll paint it again. But for now, I wanna hurry up and get these on, so we're gonna go this route and see what happens. That is just a little bit of JB weld inside, and I put a cardboard backing to support it, and it dried overnight. Now I'm just going to sand it just a little bit, clean that up, and then we'll hit it with some spot putty, kind of like glazing putty, and that way it'll fill in the imperfection even better, and we'll sand that down and paint these all black. Go. It was hard to do with one hand, but basically this is the spot putty. Put it on a plastic applicator and just put it over. I put it higher than both of the divots so that way I could just block it smooth pretty quick. That stuff sounds pretty easy, and after that it's ready for a little bit of prep and black Steelit. So we've got the putty all dried up. It's been sitting for a few hours, and I'm just going to block it smooth. You can see it sands pretty easily. So I'll do it a little bit more till we get it nice and flush. And just like that, we've got them nice and blocked out, just following simple auto body sanding, you know, crosshatch pattern. Let the sanding do the job. Don't try to get a piece of sandpaper and use your finger. You've got to do it nice and flat to get the most even outcome. But either way, this is ready to get wiped down with some alcohol, and then we can get the first pass of black Steelit. Everything's wiped down with alcohol. You can see the nice smooth finish on the 2 holes we try to fill. And we're gonna use some black Steelit. This stuff lays on very nice. So we'll see right here. I usually do a very thin coat on the first layer. It might be a little too far, but it should be okay. All right, so we're going to let that tack up, and then we'll come back and do another coat. And here it is with the third and final coat. Everything is looking great. We are just waiting for it to fully cure before we throw it on the truck. But either way, the shaved lower portion looks great, and these all came out good. No weird imperfections or anything. So it's pretty much ready for the side molding to go on, and then we can start bolting it up. Right here, the gasket pushed it back farther, so it's not lining up on the hole like I wanted to. So I'm just going to drill straight through it. We'll make a new hole on that bracket that originally went from here to here. It is now this way. This is fully secured. This isn't going anywhere, and this is good to go. We just need to put in this front piece, and it pretty much squeezes in just like the rear part. So I'm going to thread these in loosely, but we'll have to kind of shove everything and move it and get it nice and comfy, and then we can torque it down. Alright guys, we've got the driver's side all buttoned up and it's nice and tight. I ended up putting some washers between this bracket and the liner so that these two were even, and I'll be doing that to the passenger side as well. So aside from that, let me show you one last thing you need to do on the passenger side if you want to delete that 90-degree bracket like I did. If not, you don't need to do it. Okay, so I got the passenger side mounted up, but I had to do a little bit of modification. Now this bracket, I was planning on using like this and then bolting it through a hole on top. The problem with that is the clearance isn't correct. So the bolt holes don't line up. So you can either notch this corner out so that it slides in forward more, and then use the bracket, but you'd have a space between the bracket and the chassis, so you need an extra long bolt. Or I just had an extra bracket from another project and I used that instead because it worked perfectly. So this is, again, so I don't have to have that 90-degree bracket right here. To me, it just visually looks better. You can make your life a whole lot easier and just use the ones it comes with and not do any of that modifications that I did. But the install will still be relatively the same. We've got the passenger side all wrapped up. So right here, we've got the bolts, nice and shiny, lined up as best as I could. And right there, you can see where I got a little too spicy on my cut compared to theirs. But that doesn't matter. That very tiny gap won't make a big difference. And just a little smidge in the front. But the most important thing is getting or preventing rocks from this flying up and dinging the fender from the end ways out. That was my biggest concern, and now it is good to go. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It makes a big difference. If you've got a question about the install or about my truck in general, drop it in the comments below.